Hello, I'm Miss Emma. So this video is Spelling the SSP Way. It's part of the online training at conductors.com. This is where we go through all of the SSP activities, and there are resources there and available to the public. So I hope you'll find this useful. Although this is about teaching spelling, the focus, as with anything with an SSP, is the learning process, the teaching process, facilitating learning, exciting children about learning. It's not just about spelling rules or spelling choices or phonics. It's the big picture. What are we trying to do? We want children to be excited about learning, and the resources and strategies, activities are all set up to engage students. It's not just what we teach, it's how we teach it. We know that we need to teach high frequency graphemes. We know that we need to ensure that children can read and spell hundreds of high frequency words. But how we do this makes a huge difference to each individual student. And so the resources are created to actually create an environment in which children can learn far more than you could ever explicitly teach. Students in many situations can become completely independent with regards to a lot of the skills and concepts that teachers traditionally teach. So a lot of this is about a mindset, about what our role is as educators, and raising the bar with regards to our expectations. So the Speech Sound Picks SSP approach is an approach, even though there are many programs embedded within it, to enable teachers to be consistent with regards to their language, their expectations, that children can go from class to class, understanding what teachers mean fundamentally, but everyone with having that same approach. I do have a master's degree in special educational needs, and I am absolutely passionate about inclusive education. I'm an advocate for early intervention, especially an early intervention for dyslexia. Resources enable students to see every spelling choice. So here we've got the speech sound monster cards. Every monster represents an English speech sound, and all of the representations on paper for that speech sound are found on their cards in their spelling clouds. So it's here, the what is here, but how? How do we ensure that every child is able to learn them and use them effectively within their writing, and recognize them and translate them into speech when they're reading? So if there are 26 letters of the alphabet, and there are lower and uppercase, and these letters are used in different combinations to spell the 1.25 million words of the English language, how are we going to ensure that the children can use them in the right combinations and in the right order in the words to spell the words as intended, as we would find it in the King's Code Mapping Book, also known as the dictionary? When you're teaching phonics, a traditional phonics program, at most there'll be perhaps 90 representations for the speech sounds. Often in programs, they can't even agree on how many speech sounds we actually have. But the spelling choices are often really, really limited. There might be a few, and then they might say they're alternative spellings, and still missing out at least double, if not triple, the number of spelling choices that there actually are in our English language. And if it's going to take 2 or 3 years to get through just that very small part of the written code, then imagine how long it's going to take every child to learn to read. We'll still have children in year 3 who are in the learning to read phase. They can't pick up age-appropriate chapter books and read them for pleasure with independence, fluency and comprehension. And to me, that's just not acceptable. People ask, why are you getting children reading before they go to school? And it's not because I want them to do well in tests or so that they can show off or whatever the perception is. There are 2 main reasons. The first is that it means they can read. I love to read. Reading is amazing. Reading enables us to escape to places we could never visit in real life. It's amazing. So why wouldn't we want every child to be able to do this. And why wouldn't we want them to be able to do this in a way that they love every step of the way? So if the perception is teaching a child to read is difficult or boring or tests or levels or whatever, then don't change your expectation for early reading. Change how you're teaching. Change your perception of teaching reading. And the other, unfortunately, is as an early intervention for dysteacher. We don't want children to become instructional casualties for whatever reason. And let's not do the blame game. It doesn't help anybody. So I want them to read and I want to prevent issues. It's as simple as that. So we take a very systematic approach. We ensure that they have phonemic awareness because children need phonemic awareness to be able to learn to read and spell. We introduce 6 initial sounds that we're going to actually work with, that we're actually going to map those speech sounds on paper so the children understand what reading and spelling is, so that when we go into phase 2 and we start to actually introduce these high frequency graphemes, it just makes sense. So we start off on green and we're spelling and reading words using these graphemes, not because we just want children to be able to read and spell sat, spin, spits, what have you. It's so they understand the concepts. It's about the learning process, not the end product of the words or spelling the words. It's the process. So that as we start to introduce more and more graphemes, the skills and concepts that become less easy, because we're not just one-to-one mapping. Think about in countries where they have fewer speech sounds and where in particular they have fewer representations for those speech sounds. It's a lot easier to learn to read and spell because the mapping is so much easier. Our English language is really difficult. However, if you teach in a different way, it's actually not. It's a lot more predictable and logical than most people think. And that's what I want you to explore within SSP. It's the ability for children to learn how words work. And there's a lot more involved than just recognizing high frequency graphemes. So that's what we're going to explore today. Just give you an overview of the approach for teaching spelling that actually is integrated within your approach to teaching reading, but that has really huge implications for the way in which children learn. So it's not about a spelling program, it's not about a reading program, it's about approach to teaching, an approach to learning. I put this spelling mat on TPT just fairly recently. I've never sold on there before, but the main reason was because I actually wanted people to start thinking about their phonics programs and how potentially limiting they are, especially if it's going to take more than 2 years to get through just those high frequency graphemes. So here we've got the speech sound monsters, so the children can look and they know the sound. There's the phonetic symbols as well. We use the IPA. So this is why a lot of speech pathologists love what we're doing, because we're linking it in with things that are already there and established for representing English speech sounds and how words work. But what I've done is I've put an example word. Now this, you might find that I've missed some off and whatever, but it's a really good start to see, oh my goodness, we're teaching the children S can represent S, and then the alternatives C and what have you. But actually look at what's the reality. There are a lot. How on earth am I going to teach those? And that's why programs don't often even address it, because they don't know how to teach it, even though we can all agree that it's there. Our code is there. In the words of English language, there are a lot of representations for every speech sound. It's the reality. So what we need to do is, instead of putting it in the too hard basket and teaching children a very basic program and then expecting through osmosis they're just going to pick up on the rest, we're going to teach differently. And that's what I do. I focus on the approach to enable every child to be able to learn more. To be able to learn more than I could ever teach. So the first step is recognizing that as a teacher, you cannot teach the children everything they need to learn. So what you do is set up an environment in which they can learn what they need to learn. So it's about our mindset, about teaching. And of course, if you've got fantastic resources and you're learning and teaching within a supportive environment online and in your physical space, it makes your life even easier, which in turn makes the lives of your students even easier. Code in a box. Spelling code in a box. Using an integrated approach that spelling is part of your whole teaching repertoire across the whole curriculum, not even just literacy. So we're explicitly teaching things, we're setting it up so that there's inquiry learning going on, so they're investigating. We're using incidental learning. As things happen, we'll grab those opportunities, those unplanned opportunities, because we are teachers, and that's what we do. Now let's get real about this. Spelling is one of the most unnatural of skills that humans will ever have to learn. It's even harder than learning to read in English. Learning to read in English is harder than learning to read in a lot of other languages. Without phonemic awareness, it's like trying to thread a needle with your eyes closed. Even with great phonemic awareness, so they can isolate the phonemes, the speech sounds, they can segment them, that's order them, they know which sound goes first, then second and third, and blend those sounds together into words. If they hear f-ish, they know that's going to be fish, even though using those isolated speech sounds outside of a word, you can't give the exact same speech sounds as we use when we're actually creating the whole word. But if you give the children the sounds, can they blend it? Can their brains blend those sounds into the word, especially if we make it as easy as possible? For example, we don't add a schwa. So with fish, as long as we don't go fa, I, sha, fa, ra, o, ga, it makes it very difficult for the students to blend the variety of sounds that you've just given there and translate them into the word frog. And often teachers do these things unwittingly, unknowingly. We've all done it and wonder why the child isn't getting to the word we want them to get to. So often we just need to analyse, what are we doing? I call this an early intervention for dyslexia. So SSP phase 1 is to identify which students have poor phonemic awareness to start off with and address it proactively, aggressively, if you like, very, very early on, so that we can help them map those speech sounds that initially they couldn't identify. We're helping them to map those speech sounds, or the speech sounds that we want to be there, because it's not necessarily the speech sounds they use. We want them to map the speech sounds with the representations on paper, the graphemes. So this mapping, this code mapping, is a vital part of spelling, but not the whole picture. But we want children to be able to put the probable spelling choices on the speech sound lines, recognize which looks right, know how to check and self-correct. So when you're marking, we're making sure that we're specific, or which sound picks, which representations of those speech sounds need to change. Did they have the right number of speech sounds to start off with? Code map is really, really powerful. But like I said, it's just one part of your toolkit. So SSP, duck hands, lines and numbers, enable children to segment the words. It's a multisensory approach, taking those sounds from left to right and blending. That's the phonemic awareness part.
Okay, what's the first monster? How does he go? Okay, can you find it? Follow the sounds. What's the second sound you can hear? What's the E monster? How does he go? What's the last sound, do you think?
We're teaching children to map phonemes to graphemes. But we need to think about what spelling is. What do good spellers do? How do they figure out the likely grapheme choices? Just watch this clip. What things are they asking for to make the best choices? Because a lot of the words that the children are asked at this level are not words that they've learned or seen before. So how would they know how to spell the word, an unfamiliar word?
Bewusstseinslage.
Can you please repeat the word?
Bewusstseinslage.
May I please have the definition?
A state of consciousness or a feeling devoid of sensory components.
Can I have all the information, please?
Bewusstseinslage or Bewusstseinslage. It's a noun. It's from an originally German word. A Bewusstseinslage is a state of consciousness or a feeling devoid of sensory components, as in Dr. Dieter described his son's attitude toward academic matters as an apathetic Bewusstseinslage.
Can you please repeat both pronunciations?
They're very slight variants. So Bewusstseinslage and Bewusstseinslage.
Bewusstseinslage.
German very true to its phonetic structure.
See how she's using her hands to organize her thinking.
Can you please repeat the word?
Bewusstseinslage.
Bewusstseinslage. Bewusstseinslage. Bewusstseinslage.
So with the code mapping here, she's actually got all the right sounds, all the right speech sound lines, but the number 5 sound pick was the wrong one. So on the number 5 speech sound line, she chose, let's have a look at all of our choices. She chose that single S, didn't she? Whereas the choice was this double S. So let's have a look. Let's monster map. So we've got the word now here, I've put here because think about our spelling choices. Let's have a look at all the choices. So in our spelling cloud, we've got all the choices as this, and we haven't got a choice of the being a W, as in this word. So what we would do if we're investigating this word is the children would write the W on the outside of the cloud and see if they can find another word that has got the V sound represented by the W. In the meantime, you put the Miss Emma card there. So we've got B, V, O, S, T, S, I, N, Z, O, R, G, And what we also do, we need to put in here in the schwa what the representation was. So here it was the E, B, O, st, s, I, n, z, log. Oh, and here is an E as well. Look at that. So we've monster mapped the word from the spelling bee.
Bewusstseinslage is spelled Bewusstseinslage.
Thank you.
And you'll realise, of course, that the letter names don't help at all for spelling. They're just labels. It just means that the person you can either use a dictionary or you can explain how to spell the word in letters, but that doesn't help with the actual process of reading and spelling. It's the sounds they represent that matter.
Well, they're not going to let her leave the stage. She's the first in the round. If Karthik spells this next word and another one correctly, he'll be the champ. If he misses either one, she's right back in.
Hexietas.
Hexietas, may I have the definition?
The status of being an individual or a particular nature, specifically individuality, specificity, thisness.
May I have the language of origin?
Latin.
Are there any alternate pronunciations?
I have hexietas, hexietas. Hexietas, hexietas, as in when Corey asked her friends what contributed to her hexietas, they quickly listed 3 things: noodles, soup, and really awesome hair.
May I have the part of speech?
It's a noun.
Can you please repeat the word?
Hexietas, hexietas.
Hexietas.
So resist the temptation to look ahead. I want you to have a go. Use your duck hands, lines and numbers and make your choices on the lines. If you've got the monsters with you, that's brilliant. Put the monsters on the lines and make your sound pick choices. So let me just repeat the word for you and then have a go. No cheating.
Hexietas, hexietas.
Hexietas.
Hexietas, hexietas.
Hexietas.
Hexietas, hexietas.
Hexietas. H-A-E-C-C-E-I-T-A-S. Hexietas.
That is correct.
Karthik Nemani, if you spell this next word correctly, we will declare you the 2018 Scripps National Spelling Bee champion. Koinonia.
Koinonia, may I have the definition?
Intimate spiritual communion and participative sharing in a common religious commitment and spiritual community.
May I have the language of origin?
Greek.
Are there any alternate pronunciations?
There's koinonia and kinonia.
May I have the part of speech?
Noun.
Can you please repeat the word?
Koinonia, kinonia.
Koinonia.
Have a go. Listen to it again 3 times and then pause.
Koinonia, kinonia.
Koinonia.
Koinonia, kinonia.
Koinonia.
Koinonia, kinonia.
Koinonia. Koinonia. Koinonia.
That is correct.
Congratulations, Karthik.
Koinonia. 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 So when you can see it and hear the sounds, it further helps your brain develop into a spelling brain, recognizing patterns, even if they're words you've never seen before. It starts to become familiar because you're really analysing the speech sounds and how they map on paper. And it is like a jigsaw puzzle. As we can't expect children to learn all the words of English by sight, this really, really matters. If I got $1 for every time I heard someone say, sound it out, what does that mean? I want you to stop picking apart every single thing you say and think, if it was a 3 or 4-year-old or a child who spoke very little English, would they understand me? Do I really mean what I'm actually saying? An Australian child going to spell the word ant and you say, sound it out. Okay, ant, 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 ant. So the first sound is nt. No, I don't mean that. I mean, I actually want you to, because we've been using the phonics for a for a, I actually want you to sound it out as my sounds, ant, and. Can you see where the confusion is? So when you say sound it out, what do you mean? Do you really want them to give the sounds they use? Or what do you mean? And of course, when they're looking at a piece of text and they're not sure of the word, if you say sound it out, usually what you mean is look at that word from the left to the right, have a look and see what you think the graphemes are in that word, and tell me the sounds that you think are associated with that grapheme. Whereas I say to children, if you pause and you can't follow the sounds to say the word because your brain is not figuring it out, keep looking at the word and I will follow the sounds so you can say the word. And we can carry on because I don't want you to lose the flow. We'll go back to it afterwards. To ask a child to take a print-to-speech approach, to look at the letter or the letter combinations and say the sound as a way to read is very, very hard. It's much easier to teach as a speech-to-print approach, which you'll learn about as you're using SSP. One of the best ways to help children with their spelling is to give them enough time towards the end of a writing session to actually go over their errors. So rather than teaching the whole class the same words at the same time, what have you, you're actually going to use their writing activities to isolate words that they have struggled with in that particular session. Just choose 3 or 4, point to them, ask the children to code map them as you're going around the classroom, and then those words are going to go in their spelling discoveries books. So you're giving them the opportunity to learn what they need at the time they need it. They're going to code map it, so you can isolate which sound pick needs to change, or if they need to change the speech sound lines. During that process, they may realize what they've done and change it themselves, but if not, you're going to write the word so that they can make their own corrections, and then they're going to write it in their book 5 times, saying the sounds as they go. You writing the word for them to see it is invaluable, as hopefully you realize when you just watch that spelling bee. If I was to give you those words and say, right, what else could it be? You could be there for ages. So rather than that, when they've made their choice and they think that's the right choice, they know it's the wrong choice because you're asking them to code map it and use their spelling discoveries book. So show them the word. They can, oh, okay, so it's this one. And it's quick and easy, and you don't get children put off. And you also don't get into a situation where children are choosing safe words they know because they don't want to have to go through this whole process of what do you think it could be? Well, have a look at the clouds, etc. It's just too fluffy. You've got 25 children, just get on with it. Show them the word, show their brain the word so that they can make their own corrections. Now, I would suggest that you use the alphabet for your spelling discoveries book. So organize it A to Z. Because then what happens is the children put the words in the correct on the correct page, but it means that you've got a really good record. Because if they spell the same word incorrectly, when you open up the Spelling Discoveries book, it's there already. You know this is a word we've looked at before. Whereas if you just kind of randomly go through a book, you're just going to lose track of the words. This book is also going to be invaluable for their next teacher, but children like to keep it. So ideally, show it to the next teacher, but children do like to keep their own Spelling Discoveries book. They could even keep it all the way through primary school. Why not have the same book? What a great record. A personal journey learning how to spell. Now, what you'll also find is, whilst you're doing it in this way, is you'll pick up on things that you see as patterns in the classroom of things that the children are not picking up on their own. They might write make and then making and keep the E. So that might be something that you choose to focus on in this Speedy 6. Thinking about concepts, skills and concepts in the Speedy 6. The Speedy 6 spelling is the SSP standalone activity that you can use with students of any age, any level. Another thing, of course, that you're going to do, the same as in the Speedy 6, is just really analyze the word. What does it mean? Use it in a sentence. Is it meaningful to them? Look at the parts in the words. What's meaningful in the word? Because we use the SSP story and the speech sound king who created the code, and he created the code mapping book called the dictionary, you'll find children as young as 3 and 4 pretty much obsessed with dictionaries and what words mean and the origins of the words. That's etymology. We're thinking about everything to do with the words, not just the phoneme to grapheme splits, not just the phonics. So activity 1 is like the spelling bee. I'm going to give them a word. We're going to give them meaning, use it in a sentence. The students are going to give their duck hands, lines and numbers, hold up the board, because before we go on to what are the choices, the children need to think about how many phonemes there were. So as a class, you're going to discuss, agree on the number of lines, lots of discussions there, not just about the word itself, but about how they pronounce the word. 2 children might pronounce it differently. So which speech sound monsters are we going to use? Which speech sound monsters do we put on the lines? This is when they then start. So up until now, this is just phonemic awareness. This is when they start to think about the sound pick choices. They might look at their clouds on their desk, their spelling cloud keyring, and they'll hold up the board when they've made the choices and think this looks right to me. And again, before we actually look at the word, the children might look at each other and discuss again, well, why did you do that? Well, because I've seen this pattern in this other word. Well, I think, and there's so much talking going on. It's just brilliant. So then the teacher, then you are going to show the word. This is the word as the king code mapped it in his code mapping book, the dictionary. So the children look at it, check it, and change it on their board. So they're self-editing. And again, they'll use the word in a sentence. But also within this, depending on the word, there's so much that can come out of it, whether it's about changing the tense, whether it's, a focus on the grammar, whether it's a focus on the meaningful parts in the words, whether it's a focus on where does it come from, or why did the speech sound king put a WH at the beginning of the word? So see what happens. And don't be there as if you are the all-knowing, if you don't know, look it up with the children. What you're working out with the children is how to find out the information that you want to know at that time. Teachers will often write to me and say, my class has worked on this today, or this just happened to come up in maths. We didn't know the origins of this word, or why is it code mapped like this, or whatever. What do you think, Miss Emma? And I will respond to every single message that you send. So please just ask me. Now, what might also come out is you might find, like the example where we had make into making, you might start talking about suffixes. So from the discussions in the Speedy 6, you might have thought, do you know, this week, let's have a project as the class. We're going to investigate the ED at the end of the word. So everybody's going to find 4 words with ED at the end, and they're going to investigate it. So you need to know, what does it mean? What's the origin? Are there parts in the words that are meaningful? What can you tell me about those 4 words? And one of the things is that they are going to code map the words and then recognize that just because it's got an ed at the end doesn't mean it's going to represent the same sound. So why not? When does it change? The things you investigate shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter how old the student is. What matters is this something that is relevant to that student at that particular time? And we need to really up the game with regards to our expectations. So here's a little girl who doesn't start school till next year, and she's going to investigate the ed at the end of the word because she's going to look at it in real text, and she's going to recognize the sounds that is going to represent using the speech sound monsters. So this is a 4-year-old who is investigating the suffix ed.
Hey, Kenzie.
Hi, Mummy.
What book are you going to read?
That is Jack.
Can you show me?
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Thanks. Oh,
So I can't
see.
stand up like this.
We might have a listen for the sounds we can hear if the word ends with this picture.
Yes.
Go for it. Show me a beautiful reading.
I am off, said Dan. He ran and skipped. Stop. Skipped. That is a picture of up the steps into the loft. He jumped. Stop. Jumped. That is a picture of into the old chest and hid. Come and get me, he yelled. Stop. Yelled. That is a picture of the. Rag and Liz Hunt's head. Stop. Hunt Ed. That is a picture of a silly shot and a dog.
Oh.
For them. The kids sprint and stop. That is a picture of the silly shot and a dog.
Oh.
To the shed. Where checked. Stop. Checked. That is a picture of checked. That is a picture of
Good girl.
in the pots. Liz left and stop. Lifted. That is a picture of the silly shot and the dog.
Oh.
The lid of the old box, but no Dan.
No, Dan.
So when we're working with words in this way, we're helping even really young children become proficient speakers. They need to think about how they're using words in sentences orally, and even very young children are aware of how words work. No one tells them to say something like, I go swimming. They're understanding about past tense, future tense, etc. They're understanding that things change even if they don't get it right. I go swimming. Oh, did you go swimming? I went swimming yesterday too. We can't expect children to be good spellers and writers if we're not working on oral language. So we're doing this all the time. When the children are eating breakfast, you can point out, oh, look, this is the word breakfast. Can you duck-hand it? Breakfast. Okay, here it is. But don't just leave it at that. Oh, but why would it be called breakfast? And this is such a good word here because, look, it's a break fast. Okay, so break fast. What does that mean? Did you eat whilst you're asleep? No, you didn't. Well, do you know there's a word for that? It's called fasting, when we're having a period of time when we don't eat anything. We might look it up in the dictionary. So look, we had a break. So I wonder if breakfast which you can see break fast. I wonder if that's got something to do with it, and explore it together just because you happen to have some cereal in front of you. And we're in a different age. We are in the age of Google. So Google, well, why don't we call it break fast? Why don't we call it break fast, break fast? Why is it breakfast? Why does it change? Explore these things. Be interested in these things. But because we don't know what's going on at home, we bring product boxes into the classroom, and that's when we play Speech Sound Detective once a week. So the children are looking at environmental print. They're looking at things around them, everyday objects, so that when they get home, they are interested and they start to ask their parents, what's this word? Let's explore it. Now, when we're investigating words, we're code mapping, children really start to notice how words work, even if they can't articulate why and what doesn't look right, etc. But we use that a lot. What looks right? I'll show children 3 words. It might be the correct number of speech sounds, correct number of sound picks, but I've switched some of the sound picks round. So it is a sound pick for that sound, but not in this word. And I'll show them and say which looks right. You'll have seen perhaps videos of young children where the SSP teacher is saying, shall I show your brain? Or can I help your brain? And that means the child isn't getting the word right. Let's say, for example, they're practicing their high frequency words. And so rather than just showing them the word, because the teacher might have more time, she's going to say, shall I show your brain? And then you show the child the word 3 times. One of them is correct, and they'll tell you which is the correct one. Because their brains are looking for patterns, not just the beginning of the word, the end of the word, whatever. They're looking for patterns. The same as if you were to write a word with a CK at the beginning of the word, even if you've never ever talked about it, the child who is using SSP and code mapping will say, no, that's not right because it's got the CK at the beginning. Well, why not? Well, I don't know, but it doesn't look right. It's because you've never seen it before. It doesn't follow any pattern.
Easy. Up. A rocking chair. Up.
Oh, that's easy.
Good job. His. Look at that. Scissors.
Is.
Good job. Once.
What? Once.
Can I help your brain?
Yes, Mother. What?
Oh, we got some more, have we? Give it a tick. Good job.
I mean this one. Yeah.
You're tricky.
What?
Well done.
What's next?
After.
I know. After.
Okay, can I help your brain?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. After.
Which one's right? Great job. Give it a tick. That says man, level 1.
So spelt it incorrectly, shown 3 words. All of them have a sound pick that is correct for each sound, like after, the R sound, after. Like think about the F sound, the second sound. So she might write A, PH, TER, A, FF, whatever. She's just going to change one of the sound picks to be the wrong, so that he's got 3 words there, but only 1 is correct. But you saw straight away he could tell which was the correct one, and then ticks it and carries on. So we're constantly just getting the brain to really recognize how these words work. And here in the background, his little teeny tot brother is learning alongside just by watching, just because he will be interested in what his big brother is doing. That's how Kenzie learnt. Her big brother was using SSP at home. So activity 6 of the Speedy 6 is really relevant to this, because the children are going to spell words using every sound pick is going to be the wrong sound pick, even though it's the right sound. And the children have then got to work out, well, what is the word? And to save you having to think of one every time for Speedy 6, the children create their own, put it in a jar, and then you just pick one out. And of course, the children love it when it's theirs. So they might have written PTYNNE, and the code mapping there is PTYNNE, because they just chose the sounds t, it, n, but with the wrong sound picks. T, it, n, tin. So they're using the clouds. And because it's a game, because it's a puzzle and it's fun, the children love it. And we're just constantly working with words. How do words work? So they cover the high frequency graphemes in the 30-minute phonics program. That's part of the phase 2 routine for SSP. They're also learning to read and spell high frequency words. This is again essential. This is just your basics. It's important that the children code map every word. Yes, they will recognize these words with automaticity. You can give them a whole pile of the words and they'll give you them all straight through, whole words, within 2 seconds. But it's a missed opportunity if that's all you're doing, because we need them to recognize patterns. We need them to recognize how words work so that they can apply that for other words. But this basics of your phonics and your high frequency words means that they can read and spell at a basic level very, very quickly. But this is separate to your Speedy 6. So high frequency words on the A3 coding poster.
You should just say the word to one. Because.
And here are teachers doing this at teacher training. It's hands-on learning. Of course these teachers can spell these words. Of course they can recognize these words. That's not the point. We're showing their brains how words work, what code mapping is. They're getting used to using their duck hands. Supercharging their brains. And every teacher is working at their pace, just as we do with the children. Gonna need a bigger board. Working through the first 100 high frequency words used in PM levels 1 to 10. Just 100 or so high frequency words. But she's hearing me say the sound, say the word, and then she's writing it. And because they can use splitters or headphones, it means everybody can work at. You get these videos on the conductors.com website.
Ready? Here we go. See if you can beat it. Say really fast.
Is and look here he come at I in we am to. So this is about automaticity. You can do a timer. Down, up, She might just do this for 60 seconds.
Come. Mum. Mum. Dad. Dad. Said. Going.
And they're going to practice writing them as well, so they're spelling them.
Is.
I would do this for about 60 seconds, 90 seconds at the most.
And.
You can even set up a station in your classroom, and they have 60, 90 seconds every day to just go and get on. Whatever works for you, but they need to learn to read and spell these high frequency words as quickly and easily as possible. So use the Speedy sitewords.com website for lots of free resources and send parents there. But also use the SSP Monster Mapping app. Now, a lot of schools and commercial spelling programs have just these lists of words that the children are supposed to work through, which makes no sense to me whatsoever as an educator, because the words need to be meaningful to those students, not just generic words. You start doing that as if it's just about them learning the words, and there are going to be a million or so that you're going to miss out. So don't. Use words that are meaningful so you can teach children how to learn how to spell any words. So if you're going to have a list, make it meaningful, whether it's a project that something the children are working on already, or think of a project, but you're going to be thinking about how the words code mapped, the phoneme to grapheme mapping, what do they mean? What are the meaningful parts in the words? Are there any interesting facts about the origins of the words? So words chosen within the Speedy 6 relate to the students and what the teacher sees the children need to be looking at, and relate to meaningful things that are going on at that particular time, whether it's a project, whether it's a time of year, whether it's a specific event, whether it's anything at all, but it's got to be relevant to those particular students, and preferably something that is part of their reading and writing and general literacy learning experiences. Have it as an embedded approach, an integrated approach. Now, as anybody could, I can throw in research to support absolutely everything that I say. And somebody will want to argue with it and what have you. Education research, to be honest, is notoriously unreliable, and people cherry pick the bits that they want. And so the idea of let's think about the research, well, it's just a silly concept really in education, because the variables are so difficult to control. So look at it, see what's happening, be interested in it, but I could put education research into this with regards to syllables. But I just want you to read this paragraph. Overall, carry on reading. It's my view that we have very little time to teach an awful lot. So make every second count. And phonemes and morphemes are far more useful for students who are learning to read and spell. Our written code is complex and the curriculum is overcrowded. So just pause the screen and read this. Now I'm just going to show you a little clip as an example of a child who was taught using Jolly Phonics, I think. So had you been used to fur, st, whatever, doing lots of consonant blends. When I ask him to, give me the new word, if I take from frog, he'll say og, because he thinks fur is a sound. And phoneme manipulation is the hardest skill for phonemic awareness. And phonemic awareness is fundamental for reading and spelling. So please keep it simple for all learners. Be inclusive. Imagine that every child is dyslexic. Imagine every child speaks English as a second language. Just make it really simple with mapping the smallest units, their phonemes, to the graphemes. We're segmenting the smallest units. So teach them to blend phonemes, focus on phonemes, don't split words into other units, unless there's a specific reason, and I can't think of what that would be. So split words into phonemes for the spelling, morphemes for the understanding of how words work, the important parts of words, the meaningful parts of words, the parts that tell you about the origins and get you excited about the words. Syllables aren't going to do that, and often actually splitting words into syllables, you lose that. You lose the meaningful parts, you lose the story of the words.
And can you just remind me, so I just asked you to tell me the sounds in words. So like I asked you like the word dog, and you said there were 3 sounds. So like it would be d, o, g. 3 sounds.
Yep.
So what did you say? Remind me for frog. How many sounds did you tell me there were in frog?
4.
Show me the sounds that you said.
Fur.
Fur,
O.
g. G. So 3 sounds. So what did you think the first one was?
F.
Right, give me the sounds.
Fur.
Fur, how do I do a fur?
F.
And
A.
fur,
O.
g. G. Okay? And then when I asked you to do trip, what's the first sound?
Tr.
Trip. Tr,
I.
I,
P.
so you went, what was the first sound? Tr,
I.
I, P. Trip. Okay, so then, and we did quite a few more, and then I went on to ask you some funny words. So I asked you to say like pim without the P. So what did you say with pim without the P?
In.
Oh, well done. What about sip without the S?
I.
Oh, too good. What about stop without the S?
O.
Hop. What about nest without the T?
Ne.
Ne. What about flag without the
Ag.
ag?
So when I started to explain to him that we just map phonemes to graphemes, keep it really simple, he understood how to do it, and he learnt how to do it very quickly. So he was an instructional casualty. That means it wasn't his fault that he was struggling. It was the program being used, or the instruction, or the way in which the program was being used, let's say. But the child was struggling. That's the bottom line. There's no point blaming. What we need to think is, this child is struggling. Why? Okay, well, if that child stops struggling when you teach differently, what does that tell us? Unfortunately, a lot of the time, people don't realize, and they give these students more of the same program as an intervention. So let's stick to mapping phonemes and graphemes, and just use morphemes for the meaning of the words. Now, SSP, the approach is just as much about teacher training as it is about helping students to learn. It's about helping teachers to learn as well as students to learn. And speedy code mapping, I also called it speedy paired decoding. I've tried to stop using the word decoding because people think of something else. They think of sound it out. They think it means something you do when you come to a word you're not sure of when you're reading, and it really doesn't. This daily SSP activity is one of the best for spelling that there is. And teachers don't really appreciate it until I make them do this in training. It makes your brain see words as pictures of speech sounds, sound pics. It makes the brain pay attention to the encoding, to the spelling. So if you're doing the online training at conductors.com, with a duck, D-U-C-K, then please go back to this module and really pay attention to it. It's one of the most powerful weapons that you'll have in your classroom, and it is free. When they're doing this, you need to go round and you need to listen to how well they are doing this. We can hear if they are seeing the mapping of phonemes to graphemes effectively. That is huge. Students who use that activity very, very quickly recognize when a word doesn't look right, including in their own writing. So they will look at, say, for example, 4 words. They'll say which looks right. Even if you haven't covered this in their explicit phonics teaching, they recognize what looks right and why, because they start to recognize patterns. A lot of this is down to the previous activity, down to Speedy solo, paired and group code mapping. You'll see this in Snap and Crack, in the ones that I've created for you. Now, some people look at it and they think, well, the children don't need to do it like that. They can read the text. That's not the point. And actually, if they can read the text, even better, because their working memory is not caught up on trying to read it, and they can actually focus on the encoding, on the mapping of those phonemes to graphemes, so they can focus on the spelling. They can focus on how words work. And in Snap and Crack, as the name implies, we're cracking comprehension. So it's not just about the phonics, it's not just about the spelling, it's about the meaning, the comprehension. Hello, boys and girls. It's Miss Emma. I wonder what we're going to be reading about today. Have you guessed it? Don't, scream, on, Halloween. Don't scream on Halloween. If, what, you, see, is, us, crackers. If what you see is crackers, even, if, you, see, bat, even if you see a bat, or skelly with maracas, or skelly with maracas. Don't scream on Halloween if what you see is crackers, even if you see a bat or skelly with maracas. Don't scream on Halloween. Don't scream on Halloween. When broom sticks are on fire. When broomsticks are on fire. This just helps the friendly witch. This just helps the friendly witch. I fly it little, her eye higher, fly a little higher. Don't scream on Halloween when broomsticks are on fire. This just helps the friendly witch fly a little higher. Don't scream on Halloween. Don't scream on Halloween. When cousin Jim runs past. When cousin Jim runs past, the cheeky ghosts just showing him the cheeky ghosts just showing him ow how to move real fast. Join in if you can. Don't scream on Halloween when Cousin Jim runs past. The cheeky ghosts just showing him how to move real fast. Don't scream on her apple eaten. Halloween. Don't scream on Halloween. You didn't see a ghost. You didn't see a ghost. Look, there's Mick, so happy. Look, there's Mick so happy. Let's join him for a toast. Let's join him for a toast. Join in with me. Don't scream on Halloween. You didn't see a ghost. Look, there's Mick, so happy. Let's join him for a toast. Don't scream on her apple eaten Halloween. Don't scream on Halloween. Or be scared of what's for to eat. Or be scared of what's for tea. Is mummies just her having a rest. Mummy's just having a rest. She's wrapped up, warm. You see. She's wrapped up warm, you see. Don't scream on Halloween, or be scared of what's for tea. Mummy's just having a rest. She's wrapped up warm, you see. Perhaps not the time to offer a helping hand. But if you see the moon is full, but if you see the moon is full, and the which up high is eaten, and the which up high is green, then your to each teacher will count 2, 3. Then your teacher will count 2, 3, and she will let you scream, and she will let you scream. Oh my goodness. But if you see the moon is full and the witch up high is green, then your teacher will count 2, 3. Don't forget to wait till he or she counts to 3. And he or she will let you scream. Sorry, teachers. No. Can't see the witch. No screams. No, just apples bobbing in a barrel. Wait for it. 1, 2, 3. I'm at, the other, end, of, I, my, poem. I'm at the end of my poem. So, enjoy, the other, party, night. So enjoy the party night. No, need, to, scream, on, Halloween. No need to scream on Halloween. You'll give you all your enders, friends, fright. Oh, speech sound frog, you messed up the code mapping on the word friends. Change it back, please. Thank you. Let's read it together. I'm at the end of my poem, so enjoy the party night. No need to scream on Halloween. You'll give your friends a fright. Now your teacher will have printed these off for you so that you can practice reading them and also use the numbers to answer the questions. So just listen to me and then you'll have a go on your own. Don't scream on Halloween. If what you see is crackers, even if you see a bat or skelly with maracas, don't scream on Halloween when broomsticks are on fire. This just helps the friendly witch fly a little higher. So pause the screen and now you read it. So listen to me, watch the words, and then you'll have a go on your own. Don't scream on Halloween when Cousin Jim runs past, the cheeky ghost's just showing him how to move real fast. Don't scream on Halloween, you didn't see a ghost. Look, there's Mick, so happy. Let's join him for a toast. Okay, now you have a go on your own. Pause the screen now. So listen to me first. Don't scream on Halloween or be scared of what's for tea. Mummy's just having a rest. She's wrapped up warm, you see. But if you see the moon is full and the witch up high is green, then your teacher will count to 3 and she will let you scream. So pause the screen and have a go on your own. Oh, I don't think the witch is there. I think she's hiding in with the apples. Right, I'm going to count to 3, but this has to be a quiet scream. 1, 2, 3. Ah! Ah! So listen to me first. I'm at the end of my poem, so enjoy the party night. No need to scream on Halloween. You'll give your friends a fright. So pause the screen and have a go on your own. Well done, everybody. So now your teacher's going to ask you some questions. Don't forget to say where you found the answer using the number. Have fun! Toodaloo! So then in the planning, you've got your suggested questions. So you could actually have a corner set up and you have some parents come in and do this activity. Okay, so in the Speedy 6, people are often asking me, well, what words do I use? I'll say, well, I don't know because I don't know your students. I don't want you to choose any words other than the words that are relevant to your students. And the only activity that is relevant to their phonics code level is hold a sentence. So the other activities are words that are relevant to your students, what you can see in their writing, what is relevant to the things they're learning about, and also thinking about vocab. And actually, one of the wonderful things about the Speedy 6 is that even if you don't know the students, you can go into any classroom and do the Speedy 6. It's a relief teacher's dream because the words have no relevance to prior knowledge. You're choosing words to explore them for the sake of exploring words, for teaching children how to learn about words. Not that particular word, although they will remember it. It's about the process, the learning process. And all you really need is a pack of wall clouds. That's $65 for a classroom. You can't go wrong. So commercial programs, commercial spelling programs. With regards to SSP, like I said, I'm talking about the Speedy 6, which you just need a pack of spelling clouds for walls at $65. But it's an approach to teaching spelling. But commercial programs tend to have lists and lists of words. And I think this is because the people creating these programs don't really understand effective ways to teach spelling. And also for ease of teaching. And a perfect example of this was when I was in a school where the teachers absolutely loved the approach, but it was leadership. And I was told, well, what happens when a relief teacher comes in because they're not going to know what to do? And if we use spelling mastery, they're going to be able to turn to the page that the children are working at and what have you. And I think, to be honest, also that they liked the idea of a scripted program that the teachers could literally follow word by word, because I think they've really underestimated what those teachers were capable of, as well as what the students were capable of. And that's a really, really sad state of affairs. We have to always think of raising the bar with regards to expectations of students and teachers, and creating an environment where everybody is able to achieve that and exceed our expectations. So just pause and have a little read of this page. But the important part is really teach to the test or follow a one-size-fits-all program, and we fail to teach. We're not teaching. That's not what teachers do. We as educators will also fail to keep learning. What better way to learn how to teach reading and spelling than to teach students, not programs? And that's my view. So please just pause the screen if you just want to have a read of this first on your own. Now, when I visit some schools, the initial sort of concept of spelling is like this isolated activity. And really the focus seems more about testing. So it's almost like, here are the words the children have got to learn to be tested on Friday. And often there's actually no teaching of those words. The children are supposed to kind of learn them through perhaps at home. And there's this very outdated look, cover, say kind of approach, which is just memorizing, rote learning a word, nothing about what the word means or about the code mapping or anything about the word. So when you're checking spelling, if you were going to check spelling on a Friday, let's say, of the children's individual words, the words that the child is focused on because perhaps they spelt them incorrectly in their writing or what have you, then I want you to think of it as the parts. So they need to tell you what the word means, they need to have the right speech sound lines and numbers, and they need to have the right sound picks. So it might be, if you want to give them a mark, it might be a mark for telling you what it is, putting it in a sentence, and there might be a mark for getting the whole word right, and there might be a mark for every sound pick in the word. So in auspicious, if they wrote it like this and they just got the first sound pick is the right sound, or can AW can be a representation for or, but not in this word, then they would just lose that 1 point there because that's the only part that they didn't get right there. If they knew what it was, could put it in a sentence, then they got all the others correct. So we're really isolating all the different skills and all the parts of the words when we're testing. And of course, if there's a word that they've got the sound pick wrong, they write it in their sound pick, their discoveries album, and then they're going to look in the cloud, they look up the IPA, symbols, etc. Now, another idea, which is something that I use a lot, is I actually, when I'm giving a spelling test, let's say, I'm giving words that the children haven't looked at, because I want to have a baseline of what the children understand, not what they've learned, not what they've memorized at home and, aren't going to remember in another couple of weeks. I want to check their actual level of understanding. And I'm going to talk to that in a minute about the kind of words that you might choose. But that test is a test of what they already know, so that we can then work on those words and they can learn something for the following week. So rather than a list that they learn for a test, we give them a test so they can learn. Now, in the online training, you learn all about the IPA and why we use it, etc. Here's Mrs. D. She's got her grade 6 class, and they can read in phonetic symbols. They're using the speech sound monsters, and very quickly they learn the phonetic symbols because it's part of how words work. And any visiting speech pathologist is just absolutely in awe. Lots of games, lots of exploration. How words work. So if you think about a scope and sequence, really your phase 1, that's prep, weeks 1 and 2, your phonemic awareness, that's the foundation. That's ensuring that they are going to be able to learn how to map phonemes to graphemes. So phase 1 is really, really important. Phase 2, when that's introduced, we're just adding in a few graphemes because it's still at the stage of them actually understanding what reading and spelling is. So although they can read and spell pat, spin, pits, all of those words built using, 6 phonemes and 6 high frequency graphemes for those in the green code level, it's not about those words, it's about the skills and concepts. And we add in then some more graphemes, and it's not about those specific graphemes, it's really more about introducing new skills and concepts. For example, that a letter, like let's say the letter C, that's its name, can represent the sound S, or it could represent the sound K. So that's a different concept from what they were looking at in the green code level, where they might have thought that every sound just maps with a letter. No, it doesn't. But we're building up with the skills and concepts, so it's not a shock. It's a scaffolded approach. We cover this in the 30-minute phonics program, which is basically your Speedy decoding, Speedy code mapping. They do their video at code level video, and then their coding poster. And of course, we go over all of that in your training. So in addition to that, they also need to be doing the high frequency words. And we're using all of this in rapid writing, writing for a purpose, and snap and crack, cracking comprehension. The Speedy 6 is where, alongside, right from the get-go, they're exploring words that are not in their code level and not in their high frequency word section, if you like. And remember, those that we've been talking about before, the 30-minute program and the high frequency words, they are learning those at their pace, as you see on the training. So it's not whole class teaching, it's every child is learning what they need, when they need, at the pace they need it. Now, phase 3 is purely and simply when they can recognize those high frequency graphemes and use them. So think about, they would pass the UK phonics test because it's just that basic phonics and being able to blend those graphemes into real words or nonsense words. It really doesn't matter. It's your basic phonics. So phase 3 is when you can get rid of your 30-minute phonics program other than your Speedy code mapping, which you carry on throughout. But because you have now more time, it means they have more time for real writing and more time for editing and more time for comprehension. The Speedy 6 carries on because it's not to do with their phonics. But have in mind all the time that with regards to the phonics, they've only covered the high frequency graphemes. So the spelling match just gives you example words, but please don't teach words, teach concepts. Now, the words you choose, the concepts, are down to the students you have, not the grade level or the expectation of the national curriculum, whatever. But suggested target concepts within the Speedy 6 might be your really important things like prefixes, suffixes, etc. Think about which are the high frequency prefixes, the high frequency suffixes. So as we did with the phonics, high frequency graphemes, the high frequency words. Think about the words the children are going to read in the books they want to read and the writing they want to use. So we want to make sure they do have all those basics, but don't get hung up on lists of prefixes and you go through them. It's boring. It's out of context. Use the ones that are important, but link it with their work. I absolutely hate spelling rules. If you teach children how to spell, they will tell you how words work, and they'll give examples of when specific patterns and what have you don't apply. So when you're trying to teach rules, you're just narrowing what the children are going to learn. And actually, a lot of the time, you fail the children who struggle to rote learn, to memorize, because they can't remember the rule, let alone apply it. So how about we have a rule breaker book, a class rule breaker book? And that means that you could go through, Google all the rules that they're supposed to be, and instead of teaching the rules, look at the rules and look for the exceptions. The children will love that, absolutely love it, because you're saying, here is a spelling rule, let's debunk it. Let's find the words where it doesn't work. And in the process of doing that, the children will discover the patterns and will learn what those people were trying to teach the children, failing to recognize that the most important thing for a teacher is that we are teaching children how to learn, not how to memorize. Although we can teach them that as well. One week you might decide to choose words in the Speedy 6 that often confuse people. So there's a theme to your Speedy 6. Link it with your literacy focus or your maths focus. You might be learning about shapes or what have you. Well, use the names of the shapes in your Speedy 6 and explore where those words came from. What are the origins of those words? Think about etymology. Think about the morphemes. Think about the code mapping, but make it meaningful. Create class books of words you have explored. You might say, this week we're going to learn about words that we can use to complement each other, or feel-good words. So again, a class book of these words. So it's like you've got lots and lots of dictionaries that are relevant to your class, that your classes have contributed towards, but it's helping with their vocab and at the same time as these words, because you'll choose these words because they've got a specific theme. But there is so much learning that will come out of it that you will not expect or be able to plan for. And it's such an exciting way to teach, as well as an exciting way for the students to learn. You'll enjoy it. Here's another great one. Words most often looked up. So there's a bit of investigative work there. The children have got to find out what those words are, as well as exploring them. We're making words matter. We're making them exciting and meaningful for the students. Because hopefully by now you've realised that it's not about the words. It is for vocab and what have you, but it's about learning. It's about how to explore words, how to see how words work. I can't tell you the amount of times in my career that I've been sent to work with, disengaged students, whole classrooms. I've gone in there because what is happening isn't working and the children are not engaged and they're not learning. So I'll start by finding out what they're interested in. And that's what I use to teach them, because I'm a teacher and programs don't do that. Teachers do that. So in the next part of training, you'll go through the actual Speedy 6. So this is vital. At the very minimum, you need 25 minutes a day, 4 days a week. You could spend an hour and a half just on the Speedy 6 every day. It's just amazing what comes out of it. But be organised because there's so much else we need to do. So the 6 activities, give yourself 25 minutes a day. If you don't have the time to do the 6 every day, we'll show you how to rearrange your timetable and how to make sure that you fit what you need in the amount of time that you have.